very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
Just Our Take is our web show. Say hi. What's your number one program that you want to take care of?
First thing we gotta do, we gotta get the economy back on track. Inflation under control. We can't be having $4 gasoline. We can't be having, groceries unaffordable. We gotta get the economy working for all Montanans again.
UFC CEO Dana White, 45, soon to be 47, President-elect Donald Trump.
He did the Trump dance. He did the Trump dance.
Also signing an executive order to instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay. Most people don't even know about it. We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of Just Our Take, episode number 104. I am your host, John, and this is our co-host for the night, at least for now. This is Elio. What's going on, El? David is having some technical difficulties, so he's trying to get back up and running. You know, you would think that someplace in the Seattle area you'd have good internet, but no, they don't.
Right. I mean, I have Starlink, so I can't complain. I love my Starlink. Thank you, Mr. Elon Musk. Love my internet.
Hey, interesting night tonight. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of back and forth. Some people would call it whipsaw because every time you think you know what's happening, they change the rules on you, and it is going back and forth quite a bit. However, tonight, we are going to do something just a little bit out of the box, and there's still some people trying to join us now, so I'm going to just stall for a little bit of time. Some of the headlines that you could see out there right now, the judges no longer have the power, and then a new set of judges come in and take power. The tariffs are in full effect, and then Trump puts a hold on the tariffs, except for China. Trump puts what did he put? 104%. Oh, there you go. Look at that. Producer Marie's already using the new stickers. Good job. Welcome, Marie. Glad you're here. So it's hard to keep up, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I mean, I think I'm going to age myself. I think he hit the clutch and dropped it down to second to go faster. we're definitely in a different gear since I think like 2 weeks ago. I mean, it's pretty impressive. Just when you think this historic president and administration is going at light speed, they crank it up. I can't wait to see what's going on next week. Actually, I can't wait to get our show going here, John. I'm very interested to read. I was reading some notes and want to know what's your take on all of this happenings.
Well, I think that I think it was rather interesting today when we saw Trump announce that he was putting a hold on those tariffs, because immediately we saw a gigantic spike in the stock market, right? Dave,
right?
I think David's back. Welcome back, Dave.
Oh, we lost him.
No.
It's
We were just talking about the great internet. We're just talking about the great internet over in your area. We've already introduced you, and we are just getting ready. I was just holding off because I wanted you to hear the monologue too, mostly because the monologue sets the tone for this show tonight. It's going to be a little bit different, and part of the reason that we're going in a different direction is because the on again, off again, judges are on, judges are off, judges are off again, judges are on again. And then the tariffs are on, tariffs are off, tariffs are higher, then the tariffs are postponed, except for China. China's tariffs went higher. And then people are now, the EU is threatening to tariff us back into 1774. So good luck with that, Mr. EU man. But I'm going to jump right in because you're going to love this one. And I think our audience is going to be a little bit whipsawed themselves. Welcome to Just Our Take, where we cut through the noise and give you the straight talk. Tonight, we're talking about who else? Donald Trump, a man who's been in the news for 40 years and might just have been eyeing the White House the whole time. Well, let's break it down. Going back to the 80s, Trump's brash New York real estate tycoon, turning the Commodore into the Grand Hyatt, building the Trump Tower. Icons of American hustle. He's not just stacking bricks, he's stacking fame. The Art of the Deal hit the shelves in 87, and suddenly he's the face of capitalism done right. But here's the kicker. He's already flirting with politics. In 1988, Oprah asks if he'd run for president. He smirks, waits a second, and says maybe if things got really bad. Does that sound familiar? That's the seed of Make America Great Again, decades before the red hats. The 90s roll in, Trump's still at it, casinos, beauty pageants, tabloid headlines, and many more artful deals. He dips a toe into 2000, sniffing around the Reform Party nomination. He doesn't pull the trigger, but the itch is there. By the 2000, he's a household name with The Apprentice, schooling America on winning while introducing himself to a much wider audience. Behind the scenes, though, he's railing against trade deals. China, Japan, same stuff he'd hammer in 2016. X-posts, or Twitter, from back then show folks joking he'd be president someday. Maybe they weren't wrong. Then in 2011, he's brought up the question of whether Obama truly was born in the United States and shining a spotlight on his birth certificate. He's, again, a huge, huge media push. He's also questioned why America was paying every other country's way. Critics call it a stunt, but conservatives saw a guy questioning the elites saw questions the elites just dodged. He's testing the waters, gauging the crowd. By 2015, he's all in. Down the escalator, up with the border wall, no apologies. Was he recruited to run? Was he groomed to run? Of course he wins in 2016, but he lost in 2020. Back in 2024. Second non-consecutive term president in the Oval Office. So, was this a 40-year master plan? The left says he's a chaos agent stumbling into power. But look at the breadcrumbs. Decades of media savvy, populist gripes, and a knack for rallying the forgotten. He's been building brand, brassy, unpolished, and ours. Not some lifelong Washington insider. Whether he plotted it or seized it, Trump spent 40 years becoming the guy who'd flip the system on its head. Tonight we'll chew on that. Did he plan this since the 80s? Or did America just need a fighter when the chips were down? We've got the clips, the stats, and our takes from X, because it isn't just a narrative, it's ours. This is just our take. And
awesome,
that's
John.
the monologue for the night. And that's where we're going.
I mean,
Well,
I remember that clip in 1980. I watched it recently. I don't remember it from 1988. Let me be clear, but I watched it again recently. And then in 1996, I think, and then 2002, and it's just been very consistent. His message for decades. He said the only way that you can correct the wrongs of this one specific trading partner is by punishing them with tariffs, or I shouldn't say punishing, using tariffs to correct their behavior.
Let me just toss this one out there.
In major U.S. newspapers last year criticizing U.S. foreign policy. What would you do differently, Donald?
It's a joke. I'd make our allies, forgetting about the enemies you can't talk to so easily, I'd make our allies pay their fair share. We're a debtor nation. Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country, because you can't keep going on losing $200 billion, and yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And, hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
John,
well,
if I may.
Is that what you were talking about?
That's
it. Go ahead, David. Al. You're getting.
Yeah, just to get in there. So, just before that episode, I was getting my feet underneath me with the English language, and I became a very big fan of Family Ties. So I'm going to age myself. And Michael J. Fox, his character was very anti-progressive, right? He was more capitalistic, and for some reason, he spoke to me because I was living in this awesome country called America, and I was learning all of the culture and the cultural norms. And then I saw Mr. Donald Trump in that video. I was captivated. I think probably a few years later, I think that was 89. I think it was around 92 where I joined the Corps in 93. So I was hooked. He was speaking to me, So I told my wife in the early 2000s, it would be fantastic if somebody like Donald Trump would run for president. So I've heard that for 40 years. So when he actually ran in 2016, for me, it was like, yes, somebody's actually speaking for me. So John, to your question about, was this planned? I don't know. I've heard other people criticize the government, other successful folks. Kevin O'Leary is one that comes to mind, which sounds just like President did in 88 or 89. So maybe it was a plan. Maybe he was waiting for the right time to come and help us out.
And I'm saying I think it goes well beyond just his concern or his criticism of the government. I think it goes all the way to writing the book. I think if you look at his book, the book has hints in there. I think that his television show was an introduction to America of Donald Trump, because not everybody followed business and real estate, especially, if you have the left coast. They certainly weren't following what was going on over in New York, not as tightly as the New Yorkers were. So this brash real estate mogul was introduced to the world, really, through The Apprentice. And then since then, many other things. But look at all the times people asked him, are you going to be president? Will you run for president? And he always left himself an out in that he could run for president.
There was another show, right? There was another show called The Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. And guess who was their first guest? Donald Trump.
Of course.
Yeah. What's your take, Dave?
Yeah, I think the thing about this situation is, imagine how many other really brilliant business leaders, and I'll say business leaders first, but this leaders of people, leaders of business who built stuff, right? They built a business from scratch, or they took it over and made it amazingly better. Just really incredibly smart and talented people. that will never, ever run for office because the cabal will just torch you. And so it takes a special kind of ego to go, you know what, I can handle that. And because the mission is so important, I can handle that, and I will deliver on the mission. And that's Trump. But but I'll put it out there. Like, imagine how many other very talented, very capable leaders are there amongst us who would never consider running for representative because they see what happens with our representatives. They see what Nancy Pelosi did. They're like, what's the point? You're going to have your life. You're going to be insulted. You're going to have stuff drug up. Your name's going to be drugged through the mud. Forget about it. It takes a special kind of person to say, I rise up above all that. I hear you. I'm on a mission, and I'm going to stay on mission until I succeed. And that's Trump.
And I would go a step further. I think that it's more than just someone with an ego, somebody with, I'll be clean about it, with a certain brashness and really chutzpah, if you will, to say I can be that president. I think that he was selected long ago. I think that what's been going on, and I'm going to play another clip in just a second, but I'm going to play. I think that when you look at what's been going on, it's been going on for a very long time. And if you listen to him recently, it's been going on since 1913. They've been very well entrenched, and I think that it's taken a long time for them. And when I say them, I'm talking about the people that were trying to crush the cabal, and we'll just call them white hats for lack of a better term. The white hats that came out and said, we are going to fix this, and we're going to have a figurehead that's going to lead us through that, and that's going to be Donald Trump. And I believe that there were some businessmen, some politicians, but mostly military leaders that did this. And I have more to come back to. We can talk about it. Let me get into this clip first. This is 1987. 1987, Larry King, and he's sitting there with, of course, the Donald.
Rumblings in the Trump camp point as far as the presidency. Could the Manhattan magnate be eyeing the White House, or is he just calling a bluff? Are you a Republican, Donald?
I'm a Republican, yes.
So if there were politics, it would be as a Republican.
It would be, I guess, as a Republican, but I don't see that there will be politics.
Why the ad then? I mean, you said you wanted to say it. There's a lot of ways you can say things. I guess an ad is one way. You could have called up shows like this who would have been trying to have you come on. Why now?
Well, it was very easy. I was tired, and I think a lot of people are tired of watching other countries ripping off the United States. This is a great country. They laugh at us. Behind our backs, they laugh at us because of our own stupidity and the leaders. I mean, what we have a Persian Gulf situation. You saw what happened today. Billions and billions of dollars are being spent on getting oil for Japan, and they're not paying anything for it. Essentially, they're paying nothing for it. We have tankers going back and forth that our men are protecting, losing their lives. I mean, they're losing their lives, Larry. We're spending billions and billions on protection, and those tankers are going over to Japan. It's just preposterous. I watched the Kuwaiti oil minister the other day laughing as he was explaining how much money they intend to make with the Bridgeton, which has been a total disaster, the Bridgeton. And I said to myself, isn't that a shame? He's talking about how much money they're going to make, and here we are. He's smiling and laughing. Why don't we get some of it? Why is it that we're protecting? We have frogmen, we have helicopters, we have aircraft carriers, and all sorts of ships all over the Persian Gulf, so that this man and his little group can make a lot of money. I think it's ridiculous.
Well, one of the reasons we say we're doing it is because we've been doing it, that all previous presidents have endorsed doing it. I guess the kind of thinking of an entrepreneur is because somebody else said it was right doesn't make it right, right?
Larry, the country is losing $200 billion a year. $200 billion. This country cannot continue to lose $200 billion. Japan is one of the wealthiest machines ever created. Saudi Arabia, and it's not, hey, let me tell you, I'm a big beneficiary of Japan. They buy my apartments in spades. They're fine people. But they're laughing to themselves as to what's happening over here. We're not kidding ourselves. They're laughing to themselves, Larry, as to what's happening with this country.
Little background there. I was, just quickly, David, I was in the Navy at the time that what he was talking about. And what happened was Iran was taking out the Kuwaiti tankers as they were cruising through, and we went in there, and so we started flagging those tankers with the American flag on them. So if Iran took shots at them, then they were effectively going to war against America. But those tankers weren't coming to the U.S; they were going to Japan, and we were protecting them free of charge. Under the guise, not the guise, under the banner of the United States Navy's job is to protect the shipping lanes. But we weren't getting anything out of it, and he was saying it's stupid of us to put all of our men out there and our equipment out there and the money that it costs to have those carrier battle groups out there and get nothing out of it while Kuwait and Japan are making billions.
He only had one thing wrong. He said, we can't afford to lose $200 billion a year. He was wrong. We lose like $2 trillion a year. So we could afford it.
Well, no, we couldn't afford it then, and it only caused us to be in the $38 trillion in debt that we are now.
Yeah, no question. But that's the genius, right? To look at it, to unravel the very complex trade deals. And most of us we just go along our merry way, and we have no idea what's happening. And if we heard about something, we have no idea how to understand it, how to unravel it, how to take something apart like that to be able to say, hey, wait a minute, this is unfair. All of the dollars are going out to support something. Somebody else or people profitable, and there's no way for us to capitalize on that.
Yeah. I'm going to jump back into the interview at a little later part in here, and he's talking about Japan.
If I ever want to sell something. So the fact is that you don't have free trade. We think of it as free trade, but you right now don't have free trade. And I support anything having to do with Canada because I think they've been one hell of a good ally.
Do you do any business in Canada?
I do a little bit of business with Canada, and the Canadian people are wonderful people, and they're with us 100%, as opposed to many other people in the world. We support so many countries that, I mean, you walk out on the airport and they say, Yankee, go home. They have signs all over, Yankee, go home, and we're giving billions. We don't give anything to our farmers. Our farmers are dying. There's no question about it. Farms that were in for generations and families, they're being taken away. The homeless are all over the streets of the major cities, the sick and the problems, and yet we'll give billions of dollars in defending countries that have 5 times more money than we can ever hope to have. It's ridiculous.
By the way, if you put up one of your properties for sale, let's say Trump Tower, would the Japanese be at the head of the line bidding for it?
They would be very tough to compete with them or some other countries, some other European countries right now because of what's happening with the dollar and the yen and the mark and the various other currencies. But the Japanese are at the forefront, and it's very, very tough to compete with them in terms of.
And see where they are now, by the way. And that goes back to a couple weeks ago. I talked about how when I was in college, I took Japanese as a language because that looked like it could very well replace English as the language of commerce.
Yeah.
Now it's Mandarin.
Now it's Mandarin. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was, David, I was agreeing with your comments. It's too many people put their heads down and just go by their merry way, so don't want to get involved. As most of you know, with my story, it's I can relate to what he was saying back then. I think I read his book early in my life, which was in my, a long time ago, my mid-20s. And knowing that his father came to the U.S. as an immigrant, his family did, I can relate to him. So I can see where he's like, hey, when I mentioned before, when I've traveled overseas and during the collapse of the housing market in 2008, I actually was in Singapore, and my colleagues from Singapore were asking me, what are you doing? And I'm like, what do you mean, what am I doing? He goes, no, why is America doing the things that they're doing with the housing market? Don't you know you're ruining the whole world? We look up to you guys. So if you guys are missing a step, it impacts our economy tenfold. And I think that's what I said before, is that we don't realize how important our country is to the world as a leader. It's not just big commerce. It's just not big companies. Here I was, this technical guy, going over, as part of my business, going over to Singapore. And these folks know more about our politics and our history than I thought I did.
Yeah.
So yeah, John, I'm so glad you brought up this whole story about President Trump, and it's great that others were listening. The White Hats went, and I think they found somebody who was perfect for the job. He's not perfect himself, but it's what we needed as a country to have as a leader in 2025.
Well, there's more to it. There's more to our story. And I agree with you. There's a lot behind the scenes. I'm trying just to get out there a little bit more about who he was back in, long before in 87 and 88. Here's one more clip from him. And I want you to listen very carefully to this one. This one makes me smile.
Jersey, hello.
Yeah, Larry and Donald, how are you doing? I have a comment and a question, then I'll hang up and I'll listen.
Go ahead.
First off, I really, really enjoy having Mr. Trump here. As a 32-year-old business person myself, I think he is a tremendous role model for young people like myself that look at him and write down their goals and strive to be better. That's the comment. The question is, I've always felt that NATO and West Germany, I mean, we have all those troops over there. I feel that they should pay their way. And then my second question is, and I'll hang up, is what other topic is near and dear to his heart? Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I agree with you on NATO. I agree with you on other countries. I don't want to single out Japan. I don't want to single out Saudi Arabia, but these are countries that people understand the kind of wealth we're talking about. And I will single them out. But there are many other countries and taking tremendous advantage of this, including NATO. If you look at the payments that we're making to NATO, they're totally disproportionate with everybody else's, and it's ridiculous. As far as other causes that are near and dear, this is the cause, because if we can solve this, then we're able to take care of something that I consider to be ultimately of ultimate importance, and that is the homeless situation, that is the farmers, that is the sick. We don't have any money. This country is busted, and it's busted because we're doing things that we shouldn't be doing. If we had business ability in this country, we'd be making lots of profit, so-called surplus profit, and that profit, that money, could be going to defend and I literally mean defend our homeless and our poor and our sick and our farmers. And that's where we ought to be spending the money, not giving it to countries that don't give a damn for us to start off with.
Give me a development forecast for the rest of the 80s, good or bad, for buildings.
I think it's going to be good in New York City. It's been bad in a lot of other places. It's going to get bad unless we do something about this horrible, horrendous deficit. You cannot continue to lose $200 billion a year. It's going to be so bad that people will never, I really believe this could be much, much worse, unfortunately, than recession. This could be the step beyond. I hate to use the word depression, but if we don't solve the $200 billion a year loss, which is exactly what we have, this country is going to have some very, very serious problem in the early 1990s.
One other thing, could the next presidency be a one-term presidency because of that?
I think the next president of the United States could have some very, very, very serious problems. It's going to be, I think, a very difficult presidency because of the problems that we're talking about right now.
And you don't want it to be Donald Trump?
I do not want it to be Donald Trump, but I do want the problems to be solved, Larry.
I just put that out there. The next president was Bill Clinton, and had he not had a Newt Gingrich in there, that would not have bode well for him.
Wait, you missed somebody in between.
Bush.
Oh yeah,
this is an 87 interview, so you had Bush.
He was a one-term president. You're right. And I was thinking about, because Trump came out and made the comment about how there's going to be some really difficult times. There were difficult times during
we went to
Bush.
war.
Yeah, but I'm talking about economically. He did have that hanging over his head. They go to war oftentimes to try to distract from the economic woes. But then once Clinton came in, he did have Newt Gingrich to kind of bail him out of a lot of trouble. Had he not had Gingrich, he wouldn't have been elected for a second term.
Yeah, and of course, his Congress didn't allow him to pass any of the crazy budget bills, and so they actually balanced the budget because they weren't allowed to spend any money. So
well, he realized with all the trouble he had with a certain young lady in a blue dress that if he didn't make changes and acquiesce, then he wasn't going to get anywhere. But I think it's interesting that Trump, as a businessman, real estate developer, was so in tune with international politics and was talking on Larry King. By the way, Larry King was the place to be back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Larry King in the evening and Oprah Winfrey during the day. And obviously he was hitting both of those places and speaking very astutely on the economy and on world politics.
Which at the time, towards the end of the 80s, right? We had a crash and then we came back and it was a slow growth though, very slow growth period into the 90s, early 90s.
Yep.
You didn't hear much about, you heard from a few people, the economy was not in the forefront. It was really more about what was happening in the Middle East. And again, I think you're right, John. I think that's a distraction for what's really going on. What's the real problem? But that is where the country pointed our attention, those evil people in the Middle East.
All right. So I am going to, David, I don't know, how good is your internet tonight?
I'm better. I'm here. Although I look like I'm in witness protection. So
you do. If I put something on screen, would you be able to read it, or do you want me to go ahead and do the read?
No, go for it. Go for it.
You go for it. You'll read it, or you want me to?
No, I'll read it. Go ahead. Put it up.
Okay. So I am unabashedly borrowing from someone that I've been following for a long time. His name is Brent Cates. His brother is Brian Cates. Both of them are really plugged in, and they truly understand at a different level what's going on. And I just want you to hear his take on, there's been this long running mantra, nothing can stop what is coming, leading up to the Trump presidency. And his take is that when Trump displayed the gold Trump card on Air Force One the other day, that was actually a go signal. And now it is switched from nothing can stop what is coming to nothing can stop what is happening. It's happening. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on screen, David. I will try to scroll at a level that you can follow along with. If we have to, we can take all three of us down so it's a little easier for you to see. Let me pull that up.
I was just looking at pictures of this, of the $5 million gold card Visa.
Can you see that, Dave?
Yeah. 2 days after President Trump's much anticipated and heralded Liberation Day, April 2nd, 2025, he surprised the legacy media on board Air Force One by displaying for them his new Trump gold card, which is kind of funny. I'm just saying.
Awesome.
Okay. Touted as an immigration pathway, it would be available to anyone who invested $5 million in American business, replacing the EB-5 visa. The EB-5 visa is an employment-based fifth preference visa that allows foreign investors and their families to apply for lawful permanent residence, meaning a green card, in the United States by investing in a commercial enterprise that creates or preserves jobs. So basically, there's a motion for this that exists already today. He's just simplifying it. The end of the beginning. Liberation Day will go down in history as the moment America's Anon community upgraded their rallying cry of nothing can stop what is coming to nothing can stop what is happening. People seem to think Donald Trump's journey to that moment began 8 long years ago in 2015 when he agreed to run for president for his first term as president. What if I told you that April 2nd, 2025 was the culmination of a passionate dream he's had for over 40 years? As constant as the North Star, as a public figure and celebrity, Donald Trump has been insisting on America pursuing a smarter, fairer trade strategy to offset the tremendous damage he saw the DC denizens creating as they had become beholden to foreign interests over the past 5 decades, always placing America last. His stance on tariffs to protect American interest has never wavered. That's right, 1988. Never forget that. What we witnessed on Liberation Day was nothing short of one man's unbreakable will to do what he knew was right, give every American an opportunity at the mediocrity our founders had bequeathed us. Oh, meritocracy. I don't know what I just read, but let me reread it because I read it wrong. Nothing short of one man's unbreakable will to do what he knew was right, to give every American an opportunity at the meritocracy our founders had bequeathed us, a birthright he'd watched the DC jackal and ghouls squander with their unquenchable greed. Donald Trump knows this enemies well. He spent decades of his own at their elbows, attending their events and parties. As my brother Brian Cates, who now won't to say, he got inside the wire and moved freely among them at will, watching, learning, absorbing their methods, all their dirty tricks and deceptive strategies of control, and he learned these lessons well. Imagine the conversations that took place on June 19th, 2015, when the Donald and his delightful wife Melania descended the golden escalator and announced his run for presidency as a GOP candidate.
Let me just stop there for just a second. You know, we've been talking about this being an operation that has been going on for many years. And we've been talking about that, I would say, almost this entire election cycle.
Right.
It's interesting that there are others that are feeling the same way. Again, Brent and Brian Cates both feel that way. I'm going to leave a link to this Substack. And Brent Cates, by the way, lots of great reading there. I'm going to leave a link to the Substack in the description. Give it a look, give it a listen. And he's, again, just really good stuff. But what he's saying here is, you know, when Trump wasn't running for anything, he was just that rich guy that was giving to both sides. Remember, he gave a lot of money to Chuck Schumer, and he talked about that. He gave money to Nancy Pelosi. He was unassuming. Nobody really thought he was a threat. He was just Donald with a lot of money, another dummy going to give him the money. All the while, he's watching, he's learning, he's figuring out their dirty tricks, finding out where the bodies are buried. I think, again, it just reinforces the idea that this has been a plan for a long time.
Okay, I'll keep going. You want me to start with Thunderdome? What does he know? Did you ever mention, that particular thing to him? Oh my God, we have to do something. What if he mentions, if he does, we're effed. Breaking a maverick. We now know President Trump's first term was seen by them as a controlled crash. They saddled him with minders to ensure, right? To ensure that he wouldn't do much to damage their Agenda 2030, as the bureaucracy in DC sandbagged and sabotaged him at will. They freely believed they'd be able to remove before inauguration, then before May Day, then you get the idea. Frankly, as we celebrated his every victory, you guessed tax cuts ever, drastically cutting regulations, obliterating ISIS, building the wall. How could we know what was coming? Thunderdome is a reader-supported publication, in case you're wondering. Please contribute. Yeah, look at that. Look at him eyeing him. See, you got to know from the very beginning. Okay, these perverted traitors dropped a GD plague on us, linked to deadly hospital protocols, coupled with a jab designed to crater our natural immunity and cripple human fertility. Agenda 2030 had arrived, and their great reset was in full swing. We were supposed to be locked down for over 10 years. Really? Supposed to be locked down for over 10 years as they searched for a cure. Millions of Americans, mostly elderly and with 3 or more comorbidities, were supposed to die as they watched helplessly. How many millions? 10, 15 would be a single. 20 to 25 would be a triple. It says 3-base run, but 30 million would be considered a home run. For those in Rio Linda, Agenda 2030 is a depopulation event. As an aside, almost all of the elderly deaths would be a significant loss of pensioners and Social Security recipients.
I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to stop right there just for a minute. I want to kind of, let's just kind of dig into that for a minute. The idea that that 2016 was a, sorry to disappoint. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, the idea that they were going to do this Agenda 2030, and you can look that up. 2030 was a total depopulation event. They wanted to not just ruin today's population, but make it so that tomorrow's population would never come to pass. And they do that in a multi-stage event. And again, 2030 is an operation. You can go out and you can find it. It's well documented. And they did it exactly the way that it unfolded for us back in 2020. And along comes, Donald Trump with his Operation Warp Speed. A lot of people, criticize him for that. Maybe we don't really understand what Warp Speed did. Maybe we don't have all the details. Maybe the media came out there and said Warp Speed was getting a vaccine to the table quickly. Maybe there was more to it than that. What I do know is that their Agenda 2030 didn't come to pass the way they wanted it to. Now, did they do some damage? They sure did. Yeah. Did they mess with the psyche of America? Absolutely. Yep. But it didn't come to full bloom like they wanted it to. And I think that, Donald Trump, and I've done this for a long time. I say Donald Trump. When I say Donald Trump, I mean his entire team, all those people that recruited him, direct him, surround him. And there's another story we're going to get to in just a little bit that talks about all of the forces against him. And when you look at all of the forces against him, and yet he's still thriving, still get the jet through, it's just amazing. Yeah, that's one of the things we're going to talk about tonight too. Thank you, producer Marie.
Woohoo!
Yeah. The best part is that it passed. There was one Republican who voted against it. So the one Republican was voting in favor of rogue judges being able to keep terrorists in our country. Illegal terrorists.
That seems like the right thing to do. I know we're not going to get into that yet, so we'll pause, stay with your line of reasoning, and then let's come back to this.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I do want to kind of shift a little bit. I don't want to read the entire Kate's memo. If you guys want to go there again, that will be in the show notes. It's good stuff. The mantra that it had to be this way. A lot of people say that although Donald Trump did everything in his power to not have 2020 stolen from him, they knew, based on all of the intel that they had, that 2020 was going to be stolen from them. They knew that it was going to be stolen. And if they were to come out and they were to bring in all the evidence that they had, there would have been such unrest and possible civil war, literally civil war, that would have killed millions if they had brought forward what they actually knew to be true. I think we're going to find out what they knew to be true here shortly. I think it's coming out. I think all of those things are going to come out. You're hearing more and more of the rumblings, no pun intended. They're hearing more and more of the rumblings about 2020 and all of the actions that took place there. More people are starting to come forward, and more evidence is being dropped out there about what happened in 2020. Again, he's protected. Now we're going to come back to it. I want to show a video in just a second, but please, let's hear from both of you guys on what you take so far.
I'll give you the floor.
Yeah. Thank you, David and John. I agree with you. I think, now remember, we're 350 million at the US, right? We all absorb information at different paces and times. And I think you have to be a good communicator, and there's no better communicator than President Trump. So I agree with your take. I think to get the populace on your side, you have to have a cadence where people begin to understand what has been going on for a while. And I agree with you. I think if they would have pushed it, and I think some of the folks that were supportive of President Trump who brought up some of those court cases might not have been part of his plan. These folks that were talking about the white hats, and and they were maybe asked to step aside, because you can see now everything that the president does, he brings his receipts, his whole administration, and you have to have that trust from the public to be able to slowly but surely demonstrate what has happened. Have you heard the news change their tone a little bit? They're kind of like, oh, we have to accept what is that, the 5 steps of depression, right? The first one is denial. He's Hitler. The second time, well, he isn't so bad. The third, so I think it's a communication marketing strategy on top of everything else that's going on behind the scenes to save our nation. And I don't think you can do that in a very small window of time without having all of the right places. So I agree with the take about this was something that was planned a long time ago. I couldn't have these successes, right?
All of these moves and counter moves have been war gamed. And being somebody who did wargaming for a living, I can tell you, here's an interesting fact. I think it was Nimitz that said during World War II, they had wargamed World War II in the Pacific endlessly. And they said not one thing that happened during World War II in the Pacific was a surprise to them, because they'd wargamed everything. The only thing that they didn't wargame was the kamikazes. It could never have anticipated someone taking their own life in such a dramatic way. But everything else had been wargamed. So knowing that, I believe that all of these things that we're seeing today have been wargamed.
Yeah, right. I think the concept of wargaming, it makes sense, right? This is what we want to achieve. Here are some possible things that could disrupt our plan, and here are our contingency actions if those things happen. I think 2020 moving, the election being the selection process where they selected Biden. I don't know if that was planned, but there's contingency planned around that. And I also think, and John, you and I have talked about this, I don't think that Trump would have gotten the support he got unless the people of this country felt how bad it could get. Like, if you didn't experience how bad it was and how corrupt and how horrible some of these humans are, we would not today have elected Trump this time around. It just wouldn't have happened. If he had won back then, he still was surrounded by people. It was stuff he didn't know who to trust. I think he was beginning to learn who to trust, but you don't even still know who to trust. That 4-year little time in between gave him a chance to watch people, see how they're moving. Who are the people that you could that are true patriots, that care about the country and are going to selflessly put the country first and get to the mission of making this country great. And now he had a whole cabinet of people, and look how fast he was able to fill those critical roles. That couldn't happen if he didn't have 4 years to watch and observe and plan. But I agree with you, the wargaming piece, no question, as he makes a decision about tariffs, which has spun us all in 360, right? And then he says, don't retaliate and good things might happen. And sure enough, who retaliated and who's the one country being singled out? So I don't know. I do think he plots these things out, and he says, if it goes down this way, here's the alternate ending.
And again, we give him credit for all of this, and when we do that, what we truly mean is there is a team, and you don't war game on your own, because that wouldn't help anything. It's only your own your single thoughts. I think that there is a team of very, very smart people that have been watching this go on for a long time. They put them into place. Now, I sent something to producer Marie, because she, like all of us, are very frustrated that things aren't happening fast enough. And I wanted to, listen, we all are. And I wanted to send something to her that might, change the narrative a little bit. So this is from Brian Cates on Truth Social. I apologize for reading, but people screaming for arrest for the past 8 years with the DOJ FBI court system we had back then were, and I'm going to be blunt here, being really dumb. Arrest would serve no purpose whatsoever. When it came to dispersing justice, when too many globalist cult embeds inside the DOJ FBI court system, you got to clean the house first. Then you can do the arrests and reach the justice phase. on top of everything else, the Trump 2.0 admin is doing, it is exposing the remaining embeds inside the DOJ, FBI, and removing them, while also shining a spotlight on the reforms that are about to be made with the judiciary, which is something we've been talking about for a little bit here, right? And it's happening again. When they finally move to unseal indictments, and by the way, there are words that there are upwards of 60,000 indictments right now. When they finally move to unseal indictments and begin the trial phase, the plan is for nobody still embedded inside the DOJ FBI court system to be able to sabotage anything. Years of careful planning went into this. Trump put his life on the line for it to be done right. Screw your timetable, screw it hard and screw it good. Your favorite social media influencers endlessly wailing for them to hurry the timeline up and do it now will have absolutely no impact whatsoever on the people running this. And you need to realize that. Throw all the tantrums you want, scream to the heavens that people in charge ignore influencer headlines set for the actions. It's good to let off some steam, to vent, but don't imagine some influencer on Yahoo or anywhere else is gonna, with 1 million+ followers, is demanding Trump or Elon do whatever, is gonna get anything done any faster. Just settle the heck down. It's going to happen. Good talk. We'll do it again sometime. That was again Brian Cates on Truth Social. Gotta love the guy.
Yeah,
I think he's right. You know, we saw in his first 4 years how he eloquently allowed people to walk themselves down the plank and shoot themselves in the foot, right? Case in point, this week, I believe a rear admiral that was in NATO was removed because, and again, to this point of allowing people to shoot themselves in the foot, this person, career politician, Navy person, but once you get to the stars, for those who don't know our audience, you really become a politician. If you're a brigadier general, major general, lieutenant general, or a 4-star general, that's a political role. You're no longer in war games with the field colonels, right? You're really a politician, and this person with quite a long career of wokeness, said, I refuse to put the president's photo in the NATO office. And she had a all hands meeting and said, we're going to weigh this guy out for 4 years. Well, I'm sorry, lady. You report to the commander in chief, CIC. That's President Trump. If you're going to disrespect your chain of command, guess what? That falls under UCMJ. That's the Uniform Code of Military Justice. You don't seem to be fit to be a leader, so we're going to remove you. And these are the things that are still happening today, John, to your point, that we have to get rid of these folks, right? Because they are the ones that could throw this wrench into this plan that could jeopardize all of this work. And I'm so glad that he's allowing these people with their TDS to show themselves, because for us citizens, we get to see how idiotic their strategy is. I mean, here's this person who's been in the military for 20+ years as an officer, which is not easy to do, leaders. She just literally I'm trying to be family show here, but she literally threw her career away, not only in the military, but that will follow you in the private sector.
Well, I think it's interesting that Trump again showed plenty of mercy here, because he could have very well had her busted down for insubordination,
right,
and a whole lot of other things. Behavior unbecoming of an officer, all kinds of things like that. But he didn't. What he said was, "Thank you for your years of service. You may be
right."
So he's not busting her down. He's not taking away her pension. He's not removing her rank at this point, unless she mouths off. Now, if she mouths off after that, which she could, then you could see the wrath coming. But for now, he was merciful and said, have a nice day. Your services are no longer needed here. A couple of things. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
No, I was just look, my quick comment earlier is, there's some crazy mistaken thinking that when you're employed, you're employed by the government, or you're employed private sector, you have a boss, and you work for a company whether it's the U.S. government or it's a private company, and the company has an image, a mission. You have to protect the integrity of that entity, unless you're doing something criminal and wrong, in which case, you have to be a whistleblower. But otherwise, you have a duty to actually care for the company that you work for. You just do. And if you choose not to, and you say, I don't have to, you can't make me, it's not right, I have my First Amendment right, fine, peace. You also don't have to work there anymore, and they don't have to keep you. They don't have to keep you employed. And it's happened several times where people come out and they do things that tarnish the reputation of the company they work for, or they speak out openly. It happened at Twitter headquarters. I think it was Twitter, right? Were there like 30 people that did a sit-in?
Yes.
And they're like, you're fired. Oh, what do you mean I'm fired? You're fired. What do you think we're going to do with you? You don't just get to behave any way you want and expect that your employer is just going to be okay with that. It doesn't work, even if it's the employer's the government.
So Alice had a question. I'm just going to jump in here. Do you think all this fentanyl was expected from China? I think she's speaking of the bust that both Pam Bondi and Pete Heggs, not Pete Heggs, Kash Patel talked about, a $500 million bust. Good stuff. Glad that they're out there doing these things. That's a massive bust, and I think that here's how these things work. It could be that someone over in the Chinese government said, "Hey, we're going to throw you something here," and then just as a way of talking about good faith, and now let's start talking about our disrepresentative tariffs. So if you guys will take this as an offering, we'd love to put this on the board, and now we can start talking truth about tariffs. Just John's take, I just know that that's how those things kind of happen. Look, they don't care. It's the government's not making that much money off of it. They're allowing it to happen, but they see the writing on the wall.
Can I be sinister about this for a minute?
Knock yourself out.
Like the sinister person in me, I could be wrong. It's my take. This is not fact, just David's fiction. The sinister person in me says, when you create a drug or the piece parts to the drug on purpose, and you know that the kill rate for this drug, can I say kill rate? The unalived rate for this drug is off the charts. It is so deadly that people who just try to help a victim, somebody who's overdosing on fentanyl, can actually become sick and die from fentanyl, can experience overdose. When you knowingly put this out there, you're doing it for one reason. You're not doing it for the correct usage, or whatever the correct usage is for fentanyl. You're doing it on purpose because you know it's ultimately going to harm the people that you're intending to harm. That's my take.
I think that there are two factions in the Chinese government's probably the wrong word, but there is the CCP and the PRC. And one of them's a good guy and one of them's a bad guy. When I say good guy, they're definitely more aligned with what we would want to have as a friend. And one of them is definitely diabolically against everything we have to do. I think that the side that is against us would love to see all of our people do exactly what you're saying, is take an OD of these terrible, terrible things. And by the way, fentanyl has been around for years. There was and is a medicinal use for it. But certainly what's happening now is not good, and it's not pharmaceutical grade.
That's right. That's right. And the other thing that comes to mind is, now we actually care, who's coming into our country from the water, who's coming into our country from either of the two, national borders, sovereign borders. Now we care. And so we're probably finding more of this now than we have in the past, just because people are paying attention. In the past, maybe they weren't paying attention, or they were told to go do something else or look the other way. So I think we'll probably hear more and more about. I didn't actually hear about this $500 million fentanyl bust, but that makes me feel good to hear that we
just David. It was very interesting. It was quite a large operation. They had the Coast Guard. They used some of the military. They had some drones. They actually the operation went off the coast of, I'm going to butcher this, a southern South American country. I don't know if it was Peru or something else. So they tracked all of this from South America into Fort Lauderdale. So it was, to move that scale of drugs up from the southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere and catch it all. That's not a neat. That's a big operation, right? To John's point, it could have taken us years. I think we might have gotten some help, and I agree with you, John. I think I agree with your take. It could not have happened with other nations or other entities assisting our folks about where it originated and what they use. I saw the whole 30 minutes, and they talked about the drones, the cutters, some of the Navy intelligence.
We'll just say the timing was suspect. That's all.
Right? Exactly. All of a sudden, you just happen to catch. You have this press conference in Fort Lauderdale of all places. And then I listened to it and backtrack their comments, where they came from and who was in it. And it's like, what is this, Miami Vice? All of a sudden, you just happen to find the guy who said, yeah, I'm the guy bringing in the drugs. It doesn't happen that way, right? In the real world, things don't happen that.
So let me just quickly go back and wrap up. I believe that we've kind of covered it in pretty depth, but we'll go back and we'll touch this a few more times before we're all done with it. I think that we'll find that the Donald Trump era is not something that just happened by accident. It wasn't just kismet. It was planned. I believe it was planned. I think it is an operation and an ongoing operation. And I think that there are more pieces to it. And we're going to share a couple more pieces that are somewhat unrelated. But first, I want you to take a look. These are all brand new stickers in the chat there. Those are all brand new stickers. Some of them are for subscribers only. Some of them are for everyone to use, but we're going to be adding more stickers. And the other thing for our subscribers, we're going to add some more features for those that decide to subscribe to Just Our Take. And one of the things that we're going to do is, I think it's saying, oh, that's the fight one. For some reason, it's not coming up for you, Dave.
Weird.
But for some reason, anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to create an environment where there are more features offered up to our subscribers, such as first look at videos. We're going to have some subscriber only videos and subscriber only content. So just wanted to share that with you. If you guys are subscribers and you want to use those, they're available for you. Right down there where you see the smiley face where it says your message here, that's where you're going to find those stickers. Also, now would be a great time for you to hit the thumbs up button. If you could do that, that'll show other people that you like what we have to offer, and we appreciate that you're here. So if you haven't done so already, please hit that Just Our Take thumbs up, because we love you and we want other people to know about it too. David, go ahead and grind away.
I'm grinding away. I'm not grinding.
You were going to say something. That's what else.
I don't remember what I was going to say. I was going to say, here's what I was going to say. I am sure that even during Biden's term, we probably still had people that cared about our country and were trying to do their job well, and probably did uncover some bad things that were happening in different parts of the world that ultimately were going to hurt the U.S. And those people are probably feeling really good right now about being able to help secure a $500 million fentanyl bust. Or
there are fine people everywhere, but I don't think that this one was super sleuthers. I think that this was somebody knocking on our door and giving us a gift. That's just my take. But right now, Elle gave me this wonderful video this morning, and I just need to share it with you guys. Pretty cool stuff. So sit back, relax, and I don't know, grab some popcorn. This comes from us, from the Dilly Meme team.
Let's tell a story. A story about one of the greatest psyops in history. The psyop that you deserve less and less every year, and that you should work harder and harder for less and less. The psyop that to be broke was the American way. The psyop that you should be lucky to pay your bills. The psyop that it's normal for prices to go up every year, forever. The psyop that it's normal to pay taxes. When you're born, death and taxes are the only certainty they would tell you. The psyop that you need to make $80,000 a year to take care of your family, then $100,000, and then $150,000. Now they tell you both you and your wife need to work to achieve financial freedom. So you hire the nannies, you hired the babysitters, You leave your community. You just don't have time for them anymore because you and your wife embarked on individual careers. These careers that took you away from your kids, your spouse, your home, your community. And they told you this was normal. It's totally normal to spend 2/3 of your time away from your family. It's normal to fight and get divorced. And it has nothing to do with the economic decisions and policies made by the government. None of it was normal. It was all nefarious. And it chipped away at what it meant to be an American. It chipped away at your self-esteem. It chipped away at your marriage, at your family, until you looked up and one day no one was married anymore. No one was succeeding unless they were heavily leveraged. One day you woke up and realized you don't recognize the world around you. Until Trump. President Trump came along and said, "This is your country, and that's your money." And he wouldn't back down. All the people that were destroying you came out and spoke against him. They went to great lengths to undermine his agenda. When President Trump hit his stride in 2019, they released a biological weapon that was the largest psyop in global history. COVID. They ran the scamdemic. They extorted trillions of dollars out of your economy. Then they stole your election overtly, hijacked your democracy, put up barbed wire fencing around your capital, and told you it was normal. During the next 4 years, they would unleash an invasion the likes of which no nation had ever seen. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of illegals poured in the United States of America and began gobbling up whatever remaining resources were in existence. You were deemed a domestic terrorist by those in power. They surveilled your phones, your computers. They surveilled your lives. But it wasn't enough to stop Donald Trump. When they couldn't undermine his campaign through the courts and lawfare, they eventually tried to kill him again and again and again, until that fateful day in November when President Trump and America reclaimed their sovereignty. With him, he brought the richest man on the planet for free, named Elon Musk. They then began uncovering and publicizing all of fraud, theft, waste, and abuse of the American taxpayer. They have threatened him. They have threatened his family. Subversion is all they have left. Infiltration is all they have left. Their funding is drying up. This is your Liberation Day.
Great video, great video. Now, I'm going to say to those of you who have joined us for the first time today, and for those of you who've been with us since show 1, you know that this is not our norm. This is not the direction that we go. However, this is the way that we think, and we've been thinking for a long time. We've just been waiting for the right time to try to bring what we believe is happening to you. I know it's a lot to take. It's a lot to swallow. But I do think that this is exactly what's happening. And quite frankly, producer Marie says that we wrote a check today for the most taxes we have ever paid. There aren't words for how angry that makes me. And
I'm with you.
Couldn't agree more.
I can't agree. I couldn't agree more either. You know, it's funny. Was explaining to my youngest about taxes, and we're talking about how much we paid. Just stop and think, how much? I don't want to pay it until I'm trusting more today, but I don't want to pay it unless I know it's going to go to things that actually help or invest in our country and the people in our country. But so anyways, I'm with you. I felt that pain too. Sorry, John, I'm stepping on you. I was just
it's
literally
fine.
just had that experience.
It's fine. And I'm it hurts. I get it. And I think that as much as I want to say things are going to be okay, and I know that people are getting tired of hearing that, if you watch what's happening, I'm gonna show this one. I was gonna do a different one, but I want to show this one instead.
By the way, John, go
Go
ahead. I was going to say, like the notion of it's going to be okay. I actually think it's going to be okay. And getting from a place where it's really dark, it's probably a terrible analogy, but like think about you hear stories about people that are addicted to, let's say, heroin or alcohol or something, right? And you go through this withdrawal process. And I've not personally experienced this, but I know people who have, like personally know them. And it's a very painful process to get to the part where you're now clean and sober. That process is incredibly painful. There's nothing simple or easy about it. But when you're there, you're in a completely different place. And so we will go through some turmoil to get to a place that's better. You get rid of the fraud, waste, and abuse. Yeah, it's painful. And we're dealing with, all the people that are fighting back. I love some of the imagery in that Dilly video. But when you get to a place where maybe you can have some trust that the dollars that are spent, the tax dollars that are spent, are actually coded and accounted for. And even if you don't agree for butterfly studies in Sudan, it doesn't matter. The fact is, we can say with confidence those dollars went to Sudan, not they just went. I don't know. Then we'll have at least some trust in the process.
Well, here's one big difference today versus 3 years ago, 2 years ago. These things are being exposed.
Right. Yeah.
Right. If you bring them to sunlight, that's how they are healed, if you will. I'm going to read this one again. I apologize for all the reading tonight, but some of these things don't have good videos with them. They're just good pieces to share with you. This comes from Clandestine on X. For those putting the narrative that Trump caved, you are mistaken. This is when he's talking about the tariffs. Trump implemented the tariffs to prove to the world that he was willing to do it, adding validity to his threats, granting him all the leverage in negotiations, and creating urgency. Now that 75 plus nations have shown they are motivated to make a deal, imagine that, Trump can take them down to 10% for 90 days to give all these nations time to negotiate a new trade deal in good faith. But they know in the back of their minds that if they don't reach a fair and reasonable deal in a timely fashion, the tariffs are going right back up. And they know Trump is not afraid to go through with it because they watched him do it. Trump is showing the world he means business and is giving them an opportunity to capitulate. Trump has had to prove to the world that he holds all the cards and that he's willing to use them. Every once in a while, the lion has to show the jackals who he is.
I gotta jump in here if you don't mind, John. You should. I was literally jumping for joy today, watching his press secretary with the secretary Bassett talking about, "Hey, media, we told you so." And I had just read that post that people are saying, "Oh, he caved, he paused." No, he didn't. He implemented a 10% tariff on everybody.
Yeah,
it was just so wonderfully done. Like it's like the art of the deal, right? Here, people thinking that they're getting a 90-day break. You're not getting a 90-day break. President Trump just put a 10% tariff on you where you were not paying a tariff.
They're getting a 90-day. They're getting a 90-day break from the hammer right now. They're getting a tap. The tap stays until you don't agree to a good deal, and then you get the hammer again. But this isn't a real negotiator. This is someone who understands what motivates people. And I was listening to a great clip on Trump, and they said that sometimes he'll go into a room and he has his plan made up and he knows what he's going to go after, but he reads the room super fast and says, "We're turning on a dime," and no one in there knows except for him. And he walks out with a great deal. I think it's amazing to have someone at this level. Again, they keep talking about 5D chess, but that's who this man is.
Yeah, he's amazing to watch.
Okay, now we're going to talk about, going back to what we talked about before. Oh, what a bummer. My other computer that I have sitting here just died on me. That doesn't help things at all. Anyway, so remember when the guy on the golf course with the gun tried to shoot President Trump, or was going to shoot President Trump? Well, it turns out there is some speculation that he could have been not just known to, but helped by some deep, dark people within the FBI and possibly CIA. A former CIA agent says Ryan Routh was almost certainly speaking with the FBI agent before attempted assassination attempt. Here's the best part. Not best as in great. He was trying to buy a Stinger missile.
Yes.
The cost of the Stinger missile is about $120,000. Black market would be $50,000 to $80,000. Where did he get this kind of money? The guy was just a slug.
Right.
He was actually actively trying to get that. There's also word that he was coordinating with Crooks. Crooks is the guy who shot at President Trump.
And Butler.
So those two people had some type of connection together.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And you know, John, this is so great to come back to this topic for a minute. It's very dissatisfying to be all the way here in April. We know that how many people did their own forensics and back into it and listen to the sounds of the bullets and the body cam footage where they're counting shells and all of the different work that was done by the public to say there's a lot more going on here. And yet here we are, middle of April, and we don't know nothing. It's like, oh yeah, there was that one shooter and they took him out and that's the end of it. And we just move on. And it's a good thing we got him. Well, wait a minute. Hold on. There's no way that there's not more to that story.
Yeah.
It's been 4.5 months. Where the heck is justice here?
Not just that, but I mean, to your point, David, there were too many, we'll call them coincidences, because, you know, that's what happens when everything goes exactly as planned. You get a whole bunch of coincidences. Everything that happened, they didn't have a spotter on the roof. You didn't have an overwatch over above the roof. You didn't have your drones flying like you would normally have. Every single thing that they would normally have in an incident like that was left uncovered and unchecked, and that just doesn't happen by accident.
Can I make a comment?
Only if you raise your hand.
Just
if you
a
raise
quick
your
one.
hand, then yes, you can make a comment.
If that would have happened in Texas, I guarantee you, some of the folks that were pointing at the police officers saying there's a man in the roof,
yeah,
there would have been rounds fired at that shooter. I most certainly know that people were carrying heat.
I know that you're very pro Texas, but we did have some terrible event happen in Texas where nobody took out the shooter. I'm sorry.
That's true. Right? That was terrible for an hour. And yeah, that's a whole nother story. We could save that for another time. But for an hour, they sat there and like, we can't go in. It's not safe. Yeah, no kidding. It's not safe. There's children in there.
You're talking about the police. I'm talking about citizens. Yeah. Citizens in Texas. I know many
about that when I was talking about JFK.
Oh, I was on the other one.
Sorry, that did happen in Texas. And
hey, but Elle, I think your point is right on, which is there were several citizens who were like, "Hey, there's a guy on the roof," not for
with
1 or
rifle.
2 seconds before, but like several seconds before, long enough for somebody to have taken some action, and no action was taken. And I don't know. Do you bring a weapon to a rally knowing that there's lots of police? And I don't know if you do that, but maybe you do in Texas. Regardless, nobody acted in time to stop that guy. And
everybody kept walking by.
That's my point. There's something wrong with which we all agree. There's something wrong. It's dissatisfying not to have this all laid out and then the people involved in handcuffs.
I'd keep your eyes wide open on what's going to happen upcoming with the trade deals. I think that I'm just kind of get us back on track here because we're running low on time and a whole lot more to cover. We're going to have to keep our eyes open. I know it's surprising, I do have another clip I want to share with you. And this one is from one of our favorite people that we share, and that's Stephen Miller. And he was talking today about Trump's tariffs. So here we go. And
he's one of my favorites, by the way, of the administration.
The most important fundamentals here, which is that because of President Trump's action to protect and defend our national security and our manufacturing base, the entire world that has abused and misused and mistreated the United States is now coming to the table to establish a new and fair global trading framework. This is something people have talked about doing, they've dreamed about doing, they've thought about doing for half a century. And especially over the last 25 years, since the trading abuses have reached a chronic point for America's economic and national security. And now that long-awaited national dialogue and negotiation is actually happening. So countries that have run up these multi-trillion-dollar trade deficits over many years are coming to the table, meeting with the president's economic team, people like Scott Bessent and Howard Lutnick and Jameson Greer, to determine what they can do to lower their trade barriers, reduce their trade deficits, purchase more American manufactured goods, and end the systemic unfair treatment of America. At the same time, the president is focusing on the number one bad global actor responsible for these trading imbalances, responsible for the erosion of our manufacturing base, responsible for the undermining of our domestic and national security, and that's China, because their industrial policies in a very targeted way have focused on dismantling the American industrial base. And that's the reason why so many of our factories and plants have been shuttered over all these years. President Trump is correcting that. Let's stay.
Stephen Miller, the guy, let me tell you. And you know, I think I love the headline there. Dozens of countries decided to stop ripping off America. That was the little chyron on the back. It's like, okay. Chiron, sorry, that's what it's called. Yeah, it's good stuff. And you know, when you're forced to come to the table because you've got somebody that has the power, and by the way, you know, these people keep on talking, these people meaning the you know, the Chuck Schumers, the AOCs, the people, you know, with no brains. They come out and they keep coming to the table and screaming, these people don't know what they're doing. They're reckless. This is so shoot from the hip and ready, fire, aim. And no, that's not at all what it is. Trump and his team have done all the homework. They know exactly where we stand, and they know exactly where the other guy stands. They know exactly what buttons to push to get the behavior that they're looking to get.
Well, it for sure is behavior modification. However, I will say, if you're not really trying to understand and the strategy and trying to follow, like, how do these tactics fit back into the strategy, it feels like whiplash. But the other piece that should not be, I don't know why anyone would feel like it's whiplash, is when you're talking about the work that Doge was doing. Like, that just seems pretty straightforward. But in terms of like the tariff piece, that may feel like whiplash because it's on, it's off, it's on, and it's off, but not really off. And if you're watching the stock market every day, which, you know, now of course people do when things go down and up like they have, then it feels like whiplash, even though it's very well thought out, not by you and I, but by the admin. It's very well thought out.
I would be surprised if it wasn't planned down to, you know, point counterpoint. When they react to this point, this is when we pull this lever. When they do this, then we pull this lever, then we push back here. We did have a comment earlier, and it was asking about the, or was it, hooray, it was the bill that came out talking about the crazy judges. I want to address that real quick. We had the Supreme Court came out and said, and it wasn't just the Supreme Court, it was actually our nemesis, our Chief Justice Roberts came out and said that Boasberg cannot single-handedly rule on something that impacts the entire nation. And so he put a stay, indefinite stay, on that ruling. So what happens right after that? Because mealy mouth, wishy-washy, limp rag Roberts came out and said, Boasberg can't do that. He didn't come out and say no federal judge can do this. He just said Boasberg, that individual. So what happens? We have two other judges, one from Colorado, one from California, came out and said, oh, okay, then we're going to put a stay on that. And so he can't use this Enemies Act anymore. And so now that's what forced Congress to come out and do this. And so I've got a quick clip, and then let's talk about it.
Oh, that's good.
I want to talk about your bill. It's called the No Rogue Rulings Act. It's up for a vote today, I believe. It would rein in activist judges. Why is it so important, Congressman?
Well, the most important part is that the Supreme Court, which sees about 62 to 66 cases a year, is now seeing a case every couple of days in order to handle these activist judges. And they are consistently slapping down these judges for their overly broad injunctions, and in some cases just reversing them. But we've got to maintain the nature of the court. The high court speaks for the nation. District courts speak for their districts. This bill returns that to where it belongs and where it was for the first almost 200 years of our history.
The Democrats say you are destroying democracy by challenging the courts like this. And your response is?
The Solicitor General of the Biden administration, as late as mid-October of last year, was asking for what we're delivering on the floor. It's only a question of the shoe on the other foot. They don't like it because it might make life a little more fluid for the Trump administration, but they absolutely wanted it till the last days of the Biden administration.
Congressman, thanks very much for joining.
So that was Darrell Issa. Darrell Issa came to Congress as, at the time, the richest member of Congress. He actually came in as a multimillionaire, and he made his millions by making a very famous car alarm that we all hated and loved at the same time. But anyway, Darrell Issa is one of the good guys, and there are few, but there are some good guys, really good guys out of California. Well, what's your thoughts on this one?
I mean, look, I absolutely love it. It's about time that the judicial system says, actually, you can't do that. You don't have, that's not your jurisdiction. So get back in your lane. You may be frustrated by it. If you are, great. You can shout from the hilltops, but you have no legal recourse as a district judge to impact what happens at the national level by the president. So sit down.
Yeah, David. Well, first of all, Congress actually did something. Wow. They did one thing, right? Here we're talking about President Trump's administration that's going, they're at ludicrous speed. And here, Congress, we passed something. I just want to say finally, because this is the problem, I think, with our nation, is that the Congress, they don't move at the speed that we need them to save our nation. And thank God that our founding fathers thought to have the executive branch and have our president with the ability to actually not just govern, but to manage this business, which it is. The U.S. as a nation is a business, right? We trade with other countries. We're builders. We build products. People get paid. It should be run like a business. So that was really nice for them to finally step up and catch up to our president, right? I mean, it was one win, but I got to say, it's finally they're on our side to do something good for the American people.
It passed. I agree with you, by the way. Well said. It has to pass the Senate too, right? Yeah. So it's not done yet.
No, but I mean, it's one of those kind of pretty straightforward, and we do have a, an ace in the hole over there. If it comes to a tie, then we got JD, and of course JD is going to move forward with it. Speaking of Congress,
what do you think of the new leadership, Jasmine, AOC, and Bernie?
I consider Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez to be the leader of the Democratic Party. She's entitled to her opinion. I'm entitled to mine. As I've said about her before, I think she's the reason there are directions on a shampoo bottle. And our plan for dealing
you didn't plan that out. We got to hurry.
Our plan for dealing with her is called Operation Let Her Speak.
The number of jokes about her throughout the interwebs. I mean, I don't know of any other politician that gets as many nasty jokes said about them as
is the reason there are directions on a shampoo bottle.
Oh, poor.
All right, another quick hit here. You saw that the coal miners came to the White House, and Donald Trump made a very large statement that we're going to allow clean burning, beautiful coal, beautiful, clean burning coal to be mined again. And so, I don't know. What do you think the miners felt about that? Do you think that they were happy? I don't know. That just made me happy. I had to show that. I will say this. If you've ever seen a coal miner after he gets off work, that ain't them. They issued brand new uniforms for him, brand new helmets, and they made him go home and take a bath before they came to the White House. Those are some hardworking, dirty, filthy, great Americans,
I'm gonna quote our president, and it's sad to say that we closed 90,000 factories in America. That is just disgusting to me. Not only did we lose millions of jobs to countries like China, what does that do to our psyche? I mean, to me, I'm telling you, every day I wake up and I'm like, wow, I can't wait to hear what he's going to do next, because it's incredible. He's bringing back the country that I fell in love with as a young man, and see it erode over the years. And I'm glad that somebody 40 years ago, like you mentioned earlier in the show, John, was looking out for us. This is amazing. It's exciting.
And a word from Elon Musk.
Just as I was dismantling a corrupt government agency in Washington, a blue-haired liberal employee ran up to me and shouted, "Mr. Musk, you're going to have to get comfortable with calling me the right pronouns or you'll have trouble."
Wow, these liberals.
To her surprise, I calmly smiled. "All right, dear miss, what are your pronouns then?" She said, "They, them." I quickly responded, "Okay, you're both fired."
Okay, you're both. Oh, that's priceless. You're both fired. Oh my God. There is another clip. That was a good one. I mean, you have to have, I mean, you need talented people, but culture eats talent for breakfast. I mean, you have to have the right culture. And if you have you have cultural, harm, you have to have it. And you've got talent. You can go and do anything. But if you have talent, no culture, it doesn't matter. You're always going to be fighting. And what's the point?
Yeah.
There is another clip, and I wish I had thought to bring it tonight, John. Sorry, I saw this earlier, and it's a clip of Elon talking about paying back. I want to say it was like a $500 million government loan. Maybe it was less than that, a couple of years back, and he paid it off early. And he was asked, "Why did you pay this early?" "I paid it early. I paid it with interest, and actually, there's a prepayment penalty." "Yeah, why would you do that?" And he said, "Well, I borrowed it from the taxpayers, and I wanted to pay it back as quickly as I could, and I have the means to do it now, so we just did it to give it back to the taxpayers. It's their money." It's like that, and this was 8 years ago, I think, is when that interview happened. It wasn't last week or last month. This is the person that people are freaking out about and trying to tank his auto company. It's not going to work.
He paid it 10 years ahead of schedule.
10 years ahead.
Amazing. Can you? So he paid that penalty. He could have held on to the money and earned interest, but he said, "No, I want to. This is the American money. It's not my money."
Yeah.
Not just that though, but he paid a prepayment penalty in addition to all of the interest.
Right. Yeah. And why'd you do it? Well, it's not my money. It's the U.S. taxpayers' money, and I want to respect them. They were gracious enough to let me borrow this. Now I need to give it back quickly as I can to put it to a good use in some other way. I mean, that's the guy he is.
Well, I was trying to put a video up. Unfortunately, I can't because on this computer, I can't log into my instant Greyhound.
Is it in the OneNote?
It is. It's craziest grocery store.
Okay, hold on.
Pretty disappointing.
I got it. Oh, it's an Insta. It's an Insta. This one might be tough for me.
Yeah, you can put it on anyway.
Let me try. Restricted.
While you're doing that,
let me do it.
With the Elon, with the Tesla cameras catching all of these people burglarizing. John, I told you this the other day. I have to share this with the audience. My wife and I saw a Cybertruck. We walked up to it because we know that the Sentry comes on. They actually had their dog in their car, and the screen said, "Please note the air conditioner is on for our dog. It's 70 degrees inside." So we walked around the Cybertruck and we started to do the Trumpy Trump dance. And I got to tell you, it felt so good. And I hope those folks went and said, "Hey, somebody was looking out for us." So there's a happy Cybertruck owner probably laughing his tail off. Two crazy Montanians were dancing around their Cybertruck. It was a lot of fun, though, I got to tell you.
Let's hope that it was somebody that appreciated it, because there have been some folks nearby. Don't forget, down in the town below us, there was a pretty active group protesting against Elon and our president. So On that happy note, I am just going to say thank you very much once again to our sponsor, Steel Rebel Design. They do great work for us. They create all of our hats, cups, hoodies, shirts, you name it, the mugs, everything. They do all of it for us, and we appreciate them greatly. If you can dream it, they can make it. Kim and Company over at Steel Rebel Design, they do create all of our hats, including all of our shirts, including the OG, Just Our Take shirt. They do all of our hats as well. Did you miss the show? Yeah, you can rewatch it. By the way, there is a wonderful little I'm sorry, this is Will, and here is the tribute to your mother, Will. How about that? P2024. Anyway, Steel Rebel Design does all of our great work, and we appreciate them very much. Kim and Company will take good care of you. If you want to get a hold of them, their link is down below in the description. You can find it there. You can get a hold of them. If you place an order directly through there, you can get the hats, the shirts, or whatever. Or you can contact Kim directly. Use the code JustOurTake at checkout, and she will give you a 10% discount off your first order. Kim and Company, thank you so much at Steel Rebel Design for sponsoring the Just Our Take show.
Okay, John, I'm going to try. Let's see if this works. Okay, you ready?
There's no sound, but that's okay. This is the craziest grocery store ever.
I could mute it. What?
Backyard barbecue. Marinated. Didn't see that. It's a beautiful store. Apparently, they're fans of Donald Trump. But look at this store. They have sushi.
I'm gonna mute it because this is quite a. What store is this? This is great. I want a store like this.
I know. Look at
That's
that.
how there are some grocery stores not like this, but you know they're on their way to this. Not this. This is amazing. And look, little saxophone. I had to mute him. Sorry, buddy, with your onion ring. You got a potty mouth.
If you pause it right, he comes back around and then pause it right. Now, you missed it. Anyway, it said what the grocery store is, but I believe it's an East Coast grocery store.
It's definitely not one we have. Yeah.
Amazing. I thought I would leave us on a happy note. So remember, folks, things are happening. Just know that they are happening, and they're going to. There's going to be some pain. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. There's going to be some pain ahead, but there's also going to be great things ahead. Don't forget. There you go. Don't forget. Donald Trump did say that the golden age of America is beginning right now. He didn't say that all the candy canes and Sugarland or whatever that is, Chutes and Ladders, is all going to be happening right away. But he did say, seed to table. There you go. He did say that it's going to turn around, and let's not forget the clip that we played a couple weeks ago where we have Elon Musk saying that veterans benefits and Social Security benefits will go up. He said, mark my words, they will go up. And so that's part of what they're working on. And the other thing is, they're really working hard to try to get rid of taxes, and who knows? Listen, if we're not wasting as much money as we used to be, we're finding all of the fraud, waste, and abuse, then that gives us, going back to 6 months ago where we showed the Russian subway. Who knows? That is not that far off for us, guys.
I mean, that's the right way to think about it. You reduce the size of government. By the way, is it possible that we overcut some things? Yes, because it is possible. And I may have to rebuild, portions of some of the agencies, but if you can cut the size of our government down to what it needs to actually function properly, you reduce the tax burden on the country. It's that simple. It's literally dollar for dollar. And then if you can find a way to produce more here, you actually will generate more tax dollars through payroll taxes. You will rebuild the Social Security trust fund because their Social Security gets taken out of your taxes. And then you'll have revenue from tariffs and other trade. it's possible you could get the tax burden down to a place where you could actually relieve a sizable portion of the country from having to pay taxes. Right now, what's it? The goal is to get anyone under $150,000. That's a lot of people in our country that don't make $150,000 a year. What an amazing thing that would be for those folks.
Yeah, think about how much money that would put back into the economy. You know, they're saying, "Oh, that's not going to be tax revenue," but guess how much money that puts back into the economy?
And by the way, when you spend it locally, right? So you're going to buy to put things in your house or clothes on your kids or food on your table. And many of those other things have state and local taxes. You're going to be supporting local businesses, which, that just continues to help support the community. In addition to that, those local taxes will then be used to pay for paving roads and all the other things that need to happen, hospitals, et cetera. So it's not like things are going to collapse if the federal government suddenly is no longer at the center of the universe.
And without a Fed to create this constant roller coaster that we're on, that you cannot get. By the way, keep your hands and arms inside the ride at all times and don't touch that seatbelt, because you're going to stay on this ride until we say you're done. And that's going to be. Anyway, listen, guys, thanks so much for riding along with me on this one. It's been fun. I appreciate you guys very much. We will be back on Sunday. Elle, any last words?
Just one. Yes, great things are coming our way. I read this quick story on Elon was trying to get a button change on the VA website. The IT guy told him it would be done somewhere in July. He challenged him to talk to two other people. They made the change in 71 minutes. So they went from 4 months to 71 minutes. The update was done. And so I'm with you. I'm super excited.
I want to see that button. Where is it? Did you find out what it is?
It's on the VA. It's your login. So most of the government sites have a little top right corner where it clicks login. Yep. For some reason, the VA site had it hidden in the center. It was really dumb. It didn't make sense, right? So Elon is like, what do you mean it's going to take till July to put this up here? He goes, yeah, through all the approvals. He goes, yeah, my team here is going to get through the red tape. Within 71 minutes, they got through the red tape and the guy was able to change the code and it was deployed. And so now all of the websites have uniformity. Everybody goes to the government sites. You need to log into it. It's on the top right. So to me, that's the efficiency that we need. Those little wins at the end of the day make all the difference for all of us who need the government for whatever services we're signing up to. It'll make sense, right? 100%. So
it's a great story, Elle. Thanks for bringing that one. Dave, how about you? Any parting words for us?
I will say, by the way, I love that story, Elle. That's a beautiful story because it exemplifies everything that this administration is trying to do, right? Make our lives a little simpler, a little bit more secure, a little bit easier. I will say, I do think, I feel good things are still coming, and it may be a little bit rough. I do think you got to hold on through these roller coaster moments, but ultimately, I feel it's coming together, and Trump is going to have to maintain this pace because we don't know what happens at the midterms. I know it's only mid-April. It's only a couple months in. Feels like nuts, but I feel very strongly that we're moving in the right direction, even when sometimes it just doesn't feel good. Like when you watch the stock market collapse, doesn't feel good. Ultimately, ultimately when we get on the other side, I feel like we're going to be grateful for having gone through that journey.
And I will just share. Thank you, David. I appreciate that, and I 100% agree. I will just share this. When you are going to dig in or around your yard, make sure you call 811. They'll come out and locate any of your gas lines or electrical lines. The one thing that they won't find your irrigation, and they won't find the irrigation control lines, the little 10 bundle of wires. In order to find those, you need to run a trencher. The trencher will find them every time. I'm going to tell you that from experience.
That sounds like very sage advice right there.
And I want to tell you, I want to thank my friend Roger for coming over and giving me a hand as I was trenching over 200 feet of trenching to modify my backyard. So
love it.
Good stuff. Anyway, thank you guys very much. Fans. Please use those new, I'm going to be adding some more general purpose stickers down below too. So if you have some ideas for some of those general purpose stickers, let me know. I'd love to do it. Also, if you'd like to subscribe, you can do that. Just talk to one of the subscribers. They'll tell you how to do it. Just kidding. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you on Sunday.
Awesome. Have a good night.
What will we do with this moment? How will we be remembered? Look at the opportunities before us.
This election really isn't about the left versus the right. It's about we, the people, choosing our government and the choice between freedom versus tyranny.
Nobody has a chronic disease burden like we have. Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
What is going on here is deeper than politics. It is deeply spiritual. We are being called to rise above the hatred and the fear and the evil.
We need to remember above and beyond that we must love our neighbors, that we must treat other people as we hope to be treated.
You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative.
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing!
Don't you want healthy children? Don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again?
I come to you today as a former Democrat. I will be a first-time Trump voter tonight.
The people dreamed this country, and it's the people who are making America great again.
Making rock and roll.